Justice. You know, guys, there is no slogan that I hate than 2024, it's our 1994. Man, South Africans made a terrible mistake in 1994. South Africans made a terrible mistake. I understand that the people were sick and tired of apartheid. I understand that people were sick and tired of apartheid, but people who voted for the ANC in 1994, they need to acknowledge that, guys, we are here because of them. We are here because of people who voted for the African National Congress. You people actually gave the ANC the power. I don't see people talking about the fact that South Africans made the biggest mistake they could ever make in 1994 for voting for the African National Congress. Because you look at the country today, the country is destroyed. The state-owned entities are destroyed. Crime is totally out of control. Everything is a mess in South Africa because of 1994 vote. So when people come out and say that 2024 is our 1994, I'm like, man, what the hell do you mean? Do you mean that we're going to make the same mistakes that South Africans made in 1994? I think we are wiser than that. 2024 is our 2024. I think we are wiser than that. Stop saying 2024. It's our 1994, because every time you say 1994, I think about South Africans voting for the African National Congress. And now the country is crumbling because of the people who voted for the ANC in 1994. Are we going to make the same mistakes? And again, I'm going to ask you the same question, guys. I know many of us are salivating at the thought of kicking out the African National Congress. Who are we going to replace the African National Congress with? Guys, please tell me in the comment section. Tell me about a political party or individual that you think this person can actually do an amazing job. Please tell me if you have a political party that you think that this political party will actually do better than the African National Congress. Tell us the name of political party and tell us why you think that political party can actually do better. Guys, let's start having these debates, man. Let's start having these debates. But every time, guys, stop saying 1994, 2024 is our 1994, man. That thing makes me angry. It makes me angry because right now we are where we are because South Africans hated the apartheid government so much that they voted for people who literally cannot govern. They voted for people who used to run with the police, who used to throw stones at the police. Now those people are their ministers today. They voted for incompetent people, uneducated people, simply because they hated the apartheid government so much. South Africans must not make the same mistake in 2024. I know that we hate the African National Congress, but we must replace the African National Congress with a party that can actually work for the people. We cannot replace the African National Congress with emotion. The people of this country, man, we have to be honest, they replaced the apartheid with emotion. This is right now. This is why the country right now, it has crumbled. Because they replaced the apartheid with emotions. They didn't care about the fact that the African National Congress could not govern. They didn't care about the fact that these cadres that are within the African National Congress, man, they are not competent with anything. These people, most of the time, they are uneducated. They don't care about that. 2024, it's about 2024, man. We need to vote for people who are educated. We need to vote for people who are actually capable of running the country. We need to vote for people who have qualifications and capable of doing the job. We cannot vote on emotion. We cannot vote on emotion, man. I would really advise South Africans going into the polls in 2024 that, guys, let us use our brains for once. For once, let us use our brains. I know that it's going to be hard for South Africans to use their brains going into 2024 because you know how political parties and politicians are. They always want South Africans to go to the polls with emotionally. They want South Africans to go to the polls emotionally. That's why the talk of apartheid, it is actually going to intensify in 2024. That's why the talks of attacking apartheid and talking about what apartheid did in South Africa, it is going to intensify. I told people that, guys, sit around, just watch television. You soon you are about to see apartheid documentaries, you are about to see apartheid movies, you are about to hear politicians talking about apartheid, because these people, man, they don't want you to go to the polls thinking rationally. They want you to go to the polls emotionally, because they know that if you go to the polls emotionally, chances are you are going to vote the ANC or you are going to vote for the EFF, because they don't actually rely on the policies for people to vote for them. ANC and the EFF, they're the same. They don't rely on the policies. Their policies are not convincing. So guess what? They're going to play the race card. They're going to play the race card. So I would really advise people that, guys, going into 2024, be very careful, man. Don't go to the polls emotionally. Don't go to the polls emotionally. Because this is the mistake that South Africans made in 1994. They were so emotional when they went to vote for the African National Congress. They got rid of apartheid, and now they have the African National Congress. Right now, our country is crumbling because of the African National Congress. The party right now is crumbling because of the African National Congress. So I would really advise South Africans not to make the same mistakes in 2024. As much as we want to replace the African National Congress, let us replace the African National Congress with a party that actually has people who are qualified and capable to do their job. For the love of God, let us replace these people with people who are actually capable of doing the job.
Let's bring in the lead. New kid on the block. Rise Mzansi yesterday launched its election manifesto for the upcoming general elections. Having only been in existence for 9 months, the party says its focus is to undo the ruling ANC's failures. Now, party leader Songezo Zibi emphasized the party's tagline, 2024 is our 1994, to some 4,000 attendants, and unveiled the party's key policy themes, which they call a festival of solutions. Zibi is hoping to win 7.5% of the vote in the upcoming polls. Does Rise Mzansi have enough muscle to attract voters in the upcoming polls, or would it have worked better to merge with other smaller parties? Let's get some insight.
But to be fair on Rise Mzansi, man, to be fair on Rise Mzansi, I know that Rise Mzansi is not one of the biggest political. I know that it's still new. But when I have to compare Rise Mzansi with other new political parties, man, I have to say that Rise Mzansi is leading the pack. Rise Mzansi is leading the pack, man. I would even argue that Rise Mzansi, as we speak today, is more popular than Build One South Africa. I would argue, as we speak right now, that Songezo Zibi is more popular than Musmaiman. Rise Mzansi, man, when I have to compare it with other new political parties, man, it's leading the pack. It's leading the pack.
Enough muscle to attract voters in the upcoming polls, or would it have worked better to merge with other smaller parties? Let's get some insight on this with Professor Situlejo Matebesi, who's a political analyst. A very good morning to you. Thank you so much for your time. I mean, as the hopes are really quite high. We heard the party leader saying that he wants to get 7.5% of the vote in the upcoming elections. I mean, what are the likelihoods?
Hi, good morning, Mpho, and good morning to the viewers. As the name of the new kid on the block, indicates, Rise Mzansi, Shoshodi, that goes with a lot of hope. And one of the, some of the hope that they have, ideals that they have, it's perhaps to attain a certain proportion of the electoral support. But we have realized from time to time, history has taught us, all these parties that pops up a year, 2 years before any elections will find out the harsh reality that it is not as easy as they have predicted, because there are many other variables that comes into play to try and persuade voters, particularly in South Africa.
Parties also set its sights on tackling corruption, load shedding, water shortages, job opportunities. I mean, some important problems that South Africans are grappling with at the moment. As you listen.
And speaking of new political parties and these smaller political parties, man, what I've realized is that when it comes to the elections, majority of the people in the country, they are not voting. Majority of the people in the country, they are not voting, man. So I don't know why. What is it that political parties, especially these young political parties, are actually doing to convince people who are not interested in voting to actually go to the polls and vote? Many people in South Africa, they are not voting. I don't know how these new political parties are actually targeting people who are not interested in voting, because you can actually win the elections by actually convincing people who didn't care about voting to actually go to the polls. You have more people sitting at home and abstaining instead of going to the polls. More people are choosing to sit at home. So if you can actually convince the people who are sitting at home not interested in voting, if you can convince those people to stand up and go to the polls and vote for your political party, I believe that you can win. But the question comes, are political parties actually doing enough in terms of convincing people or actually encouraging people to standing up and going to the polls? Are political parties doing enough? This question does not go only to young political parties. It goes to all the opposition parties. It goes to all the opposition parties, because if I have to talk about the African National Congress, the African National Congress is doing a wonderful job of actually encouraging its people who didn't care about voting in the last election. They are encouraging their own people by blackmailing them. You know, the ANC goes around telling people that, guys, if you don't vote for the African National Congress, chances are you're going to lose your social grants. So they understand that many people, they have social grants, but many people do not vote in South Africa. But they understand that if they start saying, guys, if you don't vote for the ANC, you are about to lose your social grants. Even the people who didn't care about voting, they are going to vote to save their social grants. So the ANC is doing an amazing job when it comes to that. I look at other opposition parties. What is it exactly that opposition parties are doing in terms of encouraging people who are not interested in voting to go to the polls and vote for their parties? Are they winning on that front? Because I can argue that the ANC is winning on that front. For now, the ANC is winning on that front. Ever since Ramaphosa said that if the ANC loses power, people are going to lose their social grants. People are now talking about this. Even within the neighborhoods, people are talking about this thing that, man, have you heard what Ramaphosa said? Ramaphosa said that if we don't vote for the ANC, or if ANC is kicked out of power, then we are going to lose the social grants. Chances are the people who didn't vote for the ANC in the past 2 elections, they are going to stand up and vote to save their grants. So the ANC is doing what it can when it comes to actually convincing people who didn't vote in the past elections. I'm talking about these new opposition parties. What is it exactly are these people doing in terms of encouraging people who don't care about voting? Are these people actually able to turn people's minds around? Are they able to make people change their minds and actually say, man, I'm not going to sit here. I'm going to go to the polls and actually vote? Are opposition parties winning on that front? And if they are not winning on that front, man, what is it they are doing wrong? What is it they are doing wrong? Because if opposition parties, they want to be voted by these pool, South African voters, if opposition parties, they want to be voted by the same people who used to vote for the ANC, now they hate ANC, they vote for the EFF, now they don't want the EFF, they vote for the DA. If opposition parties, especially new political parties, they want to be voted in by the same people, chances are they are not going to be voted into power. They're not going to be voted into power. So the political party that actually wants power needs to be able to convince people and encourage people who are sitting at home. Those people who say that, man, I want nothing to do with politics. I want nothing to do with elections. Those are the people that you should be able to encourage and convince to go to the polls and vote for you. Because in numbers, the people who are sitting at home, there's a huge number of them. The people who are going to the polls, man, it's a small number compared to the people who are sitting at home. So if you can manage to incite maybe 10%, if you can manage to convince at least 10% of people who are sitting at home to actually vote for you, those people, man, are going to make you a winner. Are political parties winning on that front? That is my question.
And then perhaps on some of the promises that are being made and the sort of impacts that this input will have on bettering South Africans' lives. What did you make of those promises?
Very important, Limpo. If you want to summarize what is coming true over and over, I mean, we all know what are the main factors that bother South Africans: load shedding, as you've mentioned them, a slow growing economy, a youth unemployment, and all that. But for me, it is almost like a manifesto that is grounded in setting South Africans free. And the question is, how are they going to do that? And I think if you look at the leadership of Rice and Mzansi, very formidable South Africans, but that's where it ends. You will need foot soldiers, people who will go out and persuade others to try and vote for this particular political party.
Exactly.
And yet again, we've seen it on numerous occasions, how people come and make these pronouncements about what they want to tackle, and then it becomes very difficult because they are not in power. But I think for me, it is definitely bringing the right, striking a right chord, mentioning all these difficulties that South Africans are meeting, and perhaps how to take them to that promised land, the so-called promised land of being free. And that freedom does not mean political freedom, because we've attained that as South Africans, but also economic freedom and a constitution that continuously not only enshrines, that have already enshrined human rights, but consolidate human rights, because they mention it is like a crime that South Africans are living under unacceptable conditions, human rights abuses, but also the whole issue of crime, corruption, and all that. And all these things are what Rise Mzansi promises to tackle.
And not only Rise Mzansi, man, all political parties are promising. All political parties are promising to tackle these issues, man. All political parties are failing, are promising to tackle these issues. Man, you see, when ANC, man, went on with that 30%, man, the investment that ANC did with that 30%, man, is unbelievable. It's insane that people could not see it at first, but what that investment that ANC did with 30%, it is actually paying off right now. It is paying off because, man, you don't have critical thinkers. You don't have poor people in this country, man, who are actually critical thinkers. You don't have critical thinkers in South Africa. You don't. I mean, like, all of these issues that Rise Mzansi is talking about are the same issues that the DA is talking about, are the same issues that the EFF is talking about, are the same issues that IFP is talking about, the same issues that Freedom Front Plus is talking about, the same issues that all political parties are talking about. But for some reason, man, the people of this country, they continue to vote for the ANC. They continue to vote for the ANC. So it simply tells you about the kind of voters we have in South Africa. It simply tells you about the kind of voters that we have in South Africa, man. I mean, like, the ANC has done everything in their power to be voted out of power. ANC has done everything they could in their own power to be voted out of power. But because, man, of this 30% of theirs, because people are uneducated, and because they've created a situation where people are depending on these social grants of theirs, for some reason, people still vote for them. It makes no sense. I mean, like, just imagine, man, if someone comes from the UK or the United States, if you were to sit with that person and say, man, you know, in South Africa, we have a political party that has been running the country for the past 30 years. And ever since these people, man, started running the country, the crime in South Africa is totally out of control. Teenage pregnancy is out of control, man. Depression, unemployment rate is 60%, the highest unemployment rate in the world, man. Millions and millions of young people in this country, they are sitting at home, man. They are doing nothing. The infrastructure is broken down. The sewages are spilling all over the place. The communities are now are now turned into illegal dumpings. If you can explain all of these things to someone who comes from the UK, to someone who comes from Swaziland, or they will be like, man, why the hell are you still? Why do you still have those people in power? It would not make sense to anyone. It would not make sense to anyone. But for some reason, man, to South Africans, it makes sense. It would not make sense to anyone. But for some reason, man, to South Africans, it makes sense. So all of these issues that opposition parties are talking about, the Rise Mzansis are talking about, it's almost as if they sound like a broken record. They sound like a broken record because you listen to manifestos, you listen to these people speak. The only thing they speak about the same issues. Now it tells you that the problem in South Africa, it is no longer about the African National Congress. The problem in South Africa, it is the people of this country. The people of this country are the ones holding the country back. They're the ones holding the country back. Everyone who opens a political party, they know which problems we have in South Africa. I mean, like, even if I were to open a political party today, I know what I would talk about. I would talk about the same issues that Rise Mzansi is talking about, the same issues that the EFF, ANC, DA, all of these political parties are talking about. Those are the issues that I would talk about. I would talk about the same issues. Because these are the issues that we have in South Africa. But the fact that South Africans, men, are hard-headed, they don't want to think otherwise. They don't even want to even consider voting for other political parties, man. It makes us look like idiots. It makes us look like idiots because it can be that we have political parties, million political parties. They are saying the same thing. But the voters of this country, man, they are saying no. The opposition parties, all of them, they are saying the same thing. Right now, the problem in South Africa, it is no longer the ANC. It is no longer the ANC. Right now, the problem in South Africa, it is the poor black people in this country. The majority of poor black people in this country, they are a problem in this country because they don't want to vote accordingly. Majority of poor black people in this country, man, they simply want to vote to secure their grants. They don't care about the direction of the country. They don't care the fact that their children are sitting at home unemployed. They don't care that criminals are terrorizing them in their own communities. They don't care about that. All political parties are talking about these issues, man. But the fact that those issues, it cannot sink in within the heads of South Africans, it shows you that now the problem in South Africa, it is no longer about politicians. The problem in South Africa, it is the people of this country. It is the people of this country. We need to start bashing the people of this country, man. We need to start bashing the people of this country. It makes no sense to me. To me, it makes no sense. It can't be that, man, all political parties say the same thing. All political parties say the same thing. Everyone who opens up a new political party is going to say the same thing. Man, listen to Roger Jardine. Roger Jardine is saying the same thing. Even Jacob Zuma with Mkhonto weSizwe. Jacob Zuma with that irrelevant Mkhonto weSizwe thing, he's saying the same thing. So it shows you that the problem in South Africa, it is the people of this country. It is the people of this country, man. It has nothing. It has nothing to do with the politicians right now. It has nothing to do with the politicians. Because it shows you that, man, ANC can literally bend down the country and people will still vote for the ANC. The ANC can bend down the country and people will find the reason to blame the white monopoly capital or to blame the apartheid for the burning of the country. It shows you the people of this country, man, they are a problem. Guys, the people of this country, man, they don't want this country to move forward. The people of this country, they don't want this country to move forward. And the same people are saying no to Cape Independence. We are saying no to another Orania. I'm saying yes to 100 Cape Independence. I'm saying, man, not only Cape Independence, man. The Cape Independence it is the only one. Guys, they need to start talking about other provinces, man. We need hundreds and hundreds of Cape Independences because these people, man, who don't want to have any change in South Africa, they cannot force us to live with the rest of the country. They cannot force us to suffer under the ANC because they are okay with suffering under the ANC. They are okay with suffering under the ANC. So why should the whole country suffer under the ANC? Because we have the majority of the people in the country okay with suffering under the ANC. When people say, guys, we are sick and tired, it looks like you people, there's no hope for you. We are calling for Cape Independence. The same people are saying, no, you cannot call for Cape Independence in South Africa. We cannot have another Orania in South Africa. Man, I'm calling for 100 Oranias in South Africa. I'm calling for 100 Oranias in South Africa. If you want to suffer under the ANC, then you can go on and suffer under the ANC. But do not expect everyone else to go and suffer under the ANC. Do not expect people to suffer under the ANC. It's the same thing the people of Eastern Cape, they are doing. The people of Eastern Cape, man, they are voting for the ANC in drones. The Eastern Cape, the last time I checked, these people are voting for ANC than any other province. But the same people of Eastern Cape, when things go bad, they go to Western Cape. They go to Western Cape and harass the people in the Western Cape. Every day when you watch a television, man, there is something about the Eastern Cape. It's either it's a school that was built under the trees, or it's either it's the children being swept away by the floods. It is always something when it comes to the Eastern Cape. And these people, man, are voting for the ANC than any other province in the country. But you look at how the province is. You look at how broken the Eastern Cape is. But these people are voting for the ANC. And after voting for the ANC, they go to the Western Cape. So why are you people keep voting for the ANC? When things go bad, you go to a place that is run by the Democratic Alliance. Why can't you sit with your own ANC? Why can't you sit with your own ANC? When people in the Western Cape say, no, we are calling for Cape Independence, they are saying, you cannot do that. You cannot do that. Man, I am calling for 100 Oranians in South Africa. I don't care. I'm calling for 100 Oranians in South Africa because I can tell you today, if you think for some reason one day South Africans are going to vote properly, then clearly you don't understand South African voters. You don't understand South African voters. South African voters, man, have voted for the ANC for the past 30 years. The ANC has done everything in their power, man, to be kicked out of the office. But the people of this country still say, no, you guys, we want you guys as the leaders of this country. We want you guys as the leaders of this country. So, guys, man, there's no hope for the people of this country, man. There's no hope. There's no hope, man. All political parties. That's why political parties are starting to sound like broken CDs. Because whenever anyone announces a new political party, man, people already know what you're going to talk about. People know that you're going to talk about electricity. People know that you're going to talk about water shedding. They know you are going to talk about crime. They know you are going to talk about corruption. You are going to talk about illegal immigration. You are going to talk about unemployment rates. They know you are going to talk about these things. That's why right now, the new political parties, it's starting to sound like these people are broken records because they are talking about same thing over and over again. But when you really step back and look at what is really happening, you are saying, man, these people, they keep talking about these things because these things are the issues that are actually bothering South Africa. But South Africans are not bothered by the same issues. South Africans are not bothered by the same issues. But when people call for the independence of some places, they say no. They say no. They say, no, man, there's no hope for South Africa. There's no hope for South Africa, man. You cannot trust the South African voters to actually make the right decision. You can't trust the South African voters to make the right decisions. South African voters, man, are voting with the emotions. South African voters are voting with the emotions, man. Whoever can actually gaslight people, whoever can actually play into the emotions of South Africans more is going to get more votes. It is easy. It is easy. Whoever is going to play more into the emotions of South Africa, it is going to get more votes. Easy. Easy. It is easy. The people of this country, they are a problem, man. South Africans are problematic. South Africans are problematic, man.
Given the fact that we know that the majority of eligible voters of the upcoming elections are young people, looking at Rise Mzansi and sort of the breakdown of the kind of people who we saw sitting in listening to the party's leader, Songezo Zibi, talking about, how the party is supported by people and not big funders. Does Rise Mzansi have enough muscle to attract voters in the upcoming elections, especially that segment of young people? I mean, the ANC has been talking about it, the DA has been talking about it, EFF talking about the importance of the young vote.
Yeah, a very difficult question to respond to because, look, the first muscle that perhaps one can talk about it, or weight that they would have, it is financial backing, and it's going to be very difficult to even start trying to debunk that particular issue. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes, whether they've got a financial muscle, because it's one thing to pull up all these public spaces, town halls and stadiums.
I mean, of course, man, Rise Mzansi has a financial muscle. Rise Mzansi has a financial muscle, man. It can't be these people, man. They have their posters all over South Africa. They have a muscle.
But you will need that support. And the second factor, that a very crucial factor, is as of that one that I've already alluded to. You will need people on the ground, and every single party, depending on where they want to contest the elections throughout South Africa. And it's not easy. It has not been easy for established political parties. And we know that the youth issue is a political hotbed when it comes to our elections. And in fact, we've got a huge problem of voter turnout amongst our young people in South Africans. So it will be up to them. It looks attractive if you look at the profile of even of the leaders, as I've indicated, very young people. They have achieved such a lot, not politically tainted individuals, but is that enough to penetrate what I would say has become almost like a political party where legacy still dictates how people vote? It's going to be very difficult for Rise Mzansi, but we do have to commend any South African who comes together collectively in a peaceful manner and try to change the situation in South Africa. And this is what we also have to afford them. But as I've indicated, the harsh reality will step in the moment the election results are announced.
We've seen.
You hear what the gentleman is saying?
As I've indicated, the harsh reality will step in the moment the election results are announced.
What the man is saying to you is telling you that, man, you're about to see that South African voters, man, are something else. South African voters are something else. You can say all the right things. You can say all the good things. You can give people, man, you can give people the blueprint of how you guys are actually going to govern the country, man. You can give people everything. But the people of this country, man, they will actually show you that, guys, we are not interested in being the reasonable voters. We don't care about being reasonable voters. We vote on emotions. We vote for people we like. We don't care about the policies. We don't care about the state of the country. We don't care about the fact that we haven't had service delivery for almost 30 years. We don't care about that. We don't care about the fact that we don't have water. We don't care about the fact that we don't have electricity. We only care about the fact that the ANC is the party that fought apartheid for us. This is what the gentleman is saying. You are about to see. When the election results come in, you are about to see how the South African voters are. This is why I'm saying, man, political parties, especially the young political parties, man, they need to fight for people who are sitting at home. They need to fight for the people who are sitting at home. People who are telling you that I'm going to vote, do not trust those people. Do not trust anyone who says that I am going to vote. Do not trust them. Do not trust them. And you need to go and campaign for the people who are not interested in voting. You need to go and encourage people who do not care about voting, for those people to go to the polls. Because these people, man, who are used to go into the polls, you cannot trust them. You cannot trust them. Our country is where it is today because of these people. Our country is where it is today because of these people. You cannot trust them. You cannot. You are about to see when the results come in that South Africans, men, are hard-headed. South Africans are hard-headed. You are about to see.
We've seen that a lot of the smaller parties are having discussions. I mean, having heard of former President Jacob Zuma, the MK party, and former ANC Secretary General Esma Gashule's ACT party having to discuss a way forward in taking to the upcoming elections. What about the Rise Mzansi when it comes to grouping up with smaller parties? What would you think would work or perhaps be a good fit, as the considerations may or may not be made in grouping up with smaller parties to have a larger impact?
Yes, I think that is the route to go. We've seen with the so-called pact formed by the DA and other opposition parties, but depending on the ideological setting of Rise Mzansi, whether they would want to align themselves with any other oppositions, and based on what, because it is based on ideology, what will be a pull factor for them. For me, it was almost like given that the former president, Jacob Zuma, and Tade Esma Gashule will work together. But what some of us have been predicting, we are just hoping that this will not lead to intimidation in certain parts of our country, as already happened here in Pusa, where it seems as if some members have been brutally attacked of other, the ruling party, and it's things like this that really affect how we handle our political issues in South Africa. But for Rise Mzansi, they will have to take a very cautious, step when it comes to deciding who would be
They don't have time for the conscious steps. They don't have time. There is no time. Rise Mzansi, build one South Africa. Rise Mzansi, build one South Africa. Shiluva, Action SA. There's no reason for these people, man, to still be separated at this point. These people, man, should have been united a long time ago. These young political parties, especially these progressive young political parties, they should have combined a long time ago. They should have combined a long time ago. There's no time for these cautious steps. Rise Mzansi really needs to be cautious, man. No, they don't need to. They don't need to. Because alone, they cannot do it. I know Songezo Zibi thinks that just because he has Rise Mzansi posters all over South Africa, now the people of the country are going to vote for him. He needs to understand that, man, alone he cannot do it. This is the same thing that I said about Musmaiman, that, man, Musmaiman, you cannot do it alone. You can't do it alone. No matter what you say, you can't do it alone. You need to team up with other people. You need to team up with other people. Right now, you are watching Jacob Zuma teaming up with Esma Gashule, teaming up with Andile Mqitama. Chances are they are going to team up with the EFF going into 2024. These people, chances are they are going to be strong after the elections. But you have the progressives in South Africa. The progressives are saying, no, we want to be the leaders, man. You have Songezo Zibi. Songezo Zibi, the leader of Rise SA. He wants to be the leader of South Africa. Musumaiman, he wants to be the president of the country. Bongani Balo, he wants to be the president of the country. These people, man, they are not thinking about coming together and taking the fight from the African National Congress. Every one of these people, they want to be the leaders. They want to be the leaders, and I think that is where the problem is. That is where the problem is. There's no time for cautious steps. There's no time for cautious steps. If parties like if parties like Rise Mzansi and Build One South Africa really want to have an impact, it's time they get close to the likes of Action SA, DA, UIM, IFP, and such. It is time. It is time. Because if they are going to step back and say, now we are taking the cautious steps, I mean, I'm telling you, elections is now. Elections is now. There's no time for cautious steps.
go into a coalition or even any formal agreements, because we've seen how these agreements just immediately after the election seems to blow into the face of the leaders and affecting the morale of the electorate.
Rising Mzansi leader Songezo Zibi says his party is not going to help the ANC retain power should the ANC fall well below 50% in elections this year.
Do you believe that? Do you believe that, guys? Do you believe that, man? Because I think these young political parties, man, I think these people, when they are auditioning to go into coalition with the ANC, they are auditioning to go into coalition with the ANC, man. I don't think even the ANC will necessarily need, I don't think the ANC will necessarily need to contact some of these political parties and say, guys, we are below 50%. How about you come with that 3% of yours? I don't think these people are going to do that. I don't think this is how it's going to roll out. I think ANC might as well get under 50%, but they are going to sit back and watch the young political parties kill each other to go into coalition with them, because most of these people, they want power. Songezo Zibi, I know for now, he's saying that Menreze say will not help ANC to attain power should ANC need the assistance if the ANC falls below 50%. But I can tell you today, Raza say, man, if the ANC says, Raza say, man, how about you come through? Raza say will come through, and they will go to their own people and say, man, we cannot change the system if we are outside. We can only change the system if we are inside. So if we go into coalition with the ANC, we can actually force the ANC to act right. We can force the ANC to act right. This is what Raza say can say to its people, and its people, man, will have to say, guys, there's nothing that we're gonna say. There's nothing that we're going to say. It is the same thing that I've said about even the DA, about the Action SA, about other political parties, man. Even though these people, man, they are swearing that, man, we are not going to help the ANC attain power. But if ANC were to make that call, or if that conversation were to be had, these people, man, it is easy. You go to your own people and tell people, guys, there's no way we can affect change if you are sitting outside. We can only affect change if we are sitting inside. We can only expose what these people are doing if you are near these people. So the people are going to be like, yeah, okay, go to Union Building, man, go and expose the African National Congress. And there you have it. Guys say, enjoying the benefits of being in Union Buildings.
What does that say about the sort of climate that we're entering into with these elections just right around the corner?
Yes, I've said it on numerous occasions, and I'm going to state it again, irrespective of what is going to happen with the outcome, what outcome we're going to get. If the ANC gets below 50%, they will still be in the driving seat. And it's parties like Rise and Zansi, these smaller parties that I will want to go to if they only need a small margin.
Exactly, man. Exactly. Do not listen to these small political parties when they say they are not going to help the ANC attain power. At least with the Patriotic Alliance. The Patriotic Alliance is straightforward with the people. You know, Gettin McKenzie said, man, I am willing to have a conversation with everyone. I love Gettin McKenzie. The man said that, man, I'm willing to have a conversation with everyone. So you cannot be surprised that Gettin McKenzie and Patriotic Alliance have now gone into coalition with the ANC. You can't be surprised because Gettin McKenzie told you that, man, I want power. I'm in this thing because I want power. If the ANC calls me and says, Patriotic Alliance, come through, let's run the country together. Gettin McKenzie told you that he's going to go and he's going to agree with running the country with the African National Congress. I love Gettin McKenzie because at least Gettin McKenzie is honest with the people.
To make that magical 50 plus, to be the party who's leading our National Assembly. So, yes, we've had these kind of pronouncements before, but sometimes it seems as if what has been offered behind the scenes for individual leaders, that is what makes them, what actually makes it attractive for them. And then they tend to forget that they've made a promise, not only to their voters or supporters, but to South Africa, to say they will not get into any agreement and coalition with the African National Congress. But if they keep their word, I think that is quite bold to make such pronouncements before any elections, to say we will not want to go into any sort of marriage with the ruling party. But that still has to be seen, because we've seen numerous times political leaders changes as rainbow changes.
How important...
Man, these things are nothing but political statements. And I'm not going to hold it against political parties who say these things. These things are nothing but political statements. I know people have to say whatever they have to say for them to have support. I know if you come out and say that, guys, if the ANC calls me, of course, the most sensible thing to say is to say, man, if the ANC calls me and says, man, we need to go into coalition, how about you come through? Of course, I'm going to tell the people that, guys, I'm not going to go into that coalition with the ANC. That is the most sensible thing to say. But in reality, man, this is not how it goes. This is not how it goes, man. Political parties, they want power. Politicians, they want power, man. Every single chance that is going to appear for these people to grab as much power as possible, they are going to take it. They are going to take it. So I'm warning you, do not listen to these political parties when they tell you that, guys, I'm not going to work with the ANC. I'm not going to work with the DA. I'm not going to work with certain political parties. Do not listen to that. Do not listen to that, because after the elections, once everything is calculated, man, everyone will be talking with everyone. Everyone will be negotiating with everyone. That thing of going around saying I'm not going to into coalition with the DA will be thrown out of the window. So do not listen to political parties, but I am not going to hold it against them. I understand it's electioneering, it's campaigning. They have to tell their people what they need, what they think their people need to hear. But the reality of the truth is that once everything is calculated, everyone will be negotiating with everyone.
Would you say the formation of these new smaller parties are, as we head to elections and with the many complaints and challenges the country faces, and what South Africans are hoping for within the other parties as well as the big parties themselves, using the smaller parties for a bigger footprint? How significant are the smaller parties?
To a certain extent, I would say, to try and answer your question, is that context matters. In any other part of the world, perhaps this would have worked, but we've seen on numerous occasions, I mean, there's a possibility that more than 350 parties will contest the elections. And the question is, if we go back, what is history? What lessons have we learned? And what can we take from what have been happening in the past? And it's quite clear that your smaller parties, new entrants into the political arena, some of them does get a certain percentage of the electoral support, but that does not change the entire political emphasis. It doesn't even shake it. We had EFF. Since EFF have entered the political space, they are, I would only say, the only party that has made significant progress ever since their launch in South African politics.
Because the EFF understands the game, man. The EFF understands the game. The EFF knows that, man, for you to win the hearts of the people of this country, you need to go on the ground and speak with the people on the ground. The EFF is the only political party that is actually taking the fight from the African National Congress, because the EFF is not scared to do what the ANC does. The EFF is not scared to go to informal settlements. They are not scared to come to the neighborhoods. They are not scared to go to the townships. They are not scared of that. But you look at other political parties, you look at most of these opposition parties, man, they have never went to any locations. They've never went to any townships. They've never went to any informal settlements. But the EFF understands. The EFF understands the game. They know that, man, if you want to take the fight from the African National Congress, you really need to go to the people on the ground and start telling the people on the ground that, guys, what you are voting for is nonsense. I always made an example. You guys remember when Helen Zille was still the leader of the Democratic Alliance? You remember when Helen Zille was still the leader of the Democratic Alliance? The reason why the Democratic Alliance showed up when Helen Zille was still the leader of the party is because Helen Zille was not scared to do what the African National Congress is doing. Helen Zille was not scared to put on a traditional dress and cook with our mothers in the townships. While she's doing so, she will tell the people that, guys, you don't have to live like this. You don't have to live like this. This is what Helen Zille used to do. That's why under Helen Zille, that's why the popularity of the DA, it went up. It went up. People actually resonated with the DA. People actually realized that, okay, as much as we can say the leadership of the DA is white, it's fine. We have white people in South Africa. There's nothing wrong with having a political party that has a leadership structure that is white. There's absolutely nothing wrong. Because if you're going to say there's absolutely everything wrong with having a political party that has a leadership structure that is white, then you're going to have to apply the same thing on these political parties that has a leadership structure that is completely black. But you know, the people in this country, man, they love double standards. So the white of the Helen Zille, it's unaccepted. By the black of the ANC, it's accepted. You know, in South Africa, this is the kind of country that we live in. But the people in the neighborhoods, they actually resonated with the DA. They actually loved the DA because they could see Helen Zille as a human being. They did not see Helen Zille as someone who is just a politician. They didn't see Helen Zille as someone as nothing but a grifter. They saw Helen Zille as someone who actually cares about them, because Helen Zille would go to these communities. Helen Zille would communicate with the people in communities. Helen Zille would play the cards with our mothers and sisters in the townships and actually speak with the people while she's doing all of these things. You remember those viral pictures of Helen Zille, the videos of her dancing within the communities and everything. She will do all of those things and keep telling people that, guys, you don't have to live like this. You don't have to live like this. This is why at the time the DA, it seems like the DA was taking the fight from the African National Congress. But right now, ever since the Helen Zille stepped back, it looks like the DA has also stepped back. It looks like the DA has also stepped back, man. So the DA really needs to stop listening to people when they say, guys, you are a white party. You do not have any representation in the black communities. Black people are not going to listen to you. I can tell you today that black people, man, are waiting to hear what you people are saying. Are waiting to hear what you people are saying.
And we haven't yet seen that, the critical role that is being played by this party. But there's been smaller parties that plays a very critical role in parliament when it comes to voting and all that. That 1.7 votes would have worked for these political parties. But generally, it doesn't seem to me that there's been any major political shift brought about by these smaller political parties. But as I've indicated, we are a constitutional democracy, and therefore we need to embrace people who start these parties. But the fact of the matter is, I strongly believe that when the opposition can consolidate the power that they have, sorry for that, they will be much stronger. But we also have a very fragmented opposition, and that in itself actually is a huge bonus for the African National Congress.
Very well.
Exactly, man. Exactly. Guys, I don't know, man. Guys, please tell me what you think on the comment sections, man. Tell me what you think on the comment sections, man. Guys, if you were a leader of a political party, man, if you were a leader of an opposition party, man, what would you do to encourage people who are not interested in voting to actually go to the polls and vote for your own political party, man? Like I said when I started the video, that the real numbers are people who are sitting at home and not going to the polls. The people who are going to the polls, man, those are not the real numbers. The real numbers are the people, man, who are sitting at home and not going to the polls. If you can encourage those people to go to the polls, I can tell you, your political party is going to win. So if you were a leader of any political party, what would you actually do? Or what would you actually say to the people who are not interested in going to the polls? For those people to go to the polls and vote for your own political party. Guys, tell me on the comment section what do you think, and don't forget to hit that like button, and the most important part, subscribe. My name is Thomas Mabaso, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.